From slavery to freedom, Black women have expressed their creativity and resistance on their heads. They tied, twisted, and crafted bandanas, head wraps, tingons, turbans, and hats. They wore them at religious services, special occasions, and in their daily lives. With their unique headwear, Black women pushed back against oppressive forces that denied their personhood. Headwear and church hats symbolized freedom, commitment to spiritual life, and a love for fashion that enslaved and free women shared. The head that wears the crown explores the past, present, and future of African American women's headwear.
It wasn't a church law, but everybody dressed up for Sunday because you put your best on for Sunday for the Lord. That was the way it was. And so everybody dressed up. In fact, the way I was brought up, we had Sunday clothes, school clothes, after school clothes, and everyday clothes. So that when you went to church, you put on your best. And everybody wore hats and things like that. You wore hats and gloves and everything went. You had decent uh, color, you know. You didn't wear, say for instance, if you were color ordinated, put it that way. Your hat and your gloves, your pocketbook, your shoes. That's the way it was. And so I'm sorry, but that's the way I still do it.
And for my, when I grew up, I went to Second Calvary Baptist Church. I still go there. It's in Hopewell Borough on Columbia Avenue. When I first started going to church there, it was on First Street in Hopewell Borough. And in 1959, we moved over to Columbia Avenue. Um, so it was a big thing to make sure you had your head covered. And so hats were very, very important. Not for the men were not allowed to have their heads covered. It's scriptural where men shouldn't have their heads covered in the sanctuary, and women should. So that was one of the reasons why uh, everybody, all the church mothers and everybody had um, hats. And so my grandmother had a collection of hats and hat boxes. Certain ones were worn on like the first Sunday when they served communion. She'd have her white hat with the white gloves, and it was a big thing. They had the hats, the pocketbooks, the gloves, the shoes, but definitely had their heads covered in the sanctuary. And some of the hats had veils on them, and if they didn't have a hat, they had a head covering, which would be considered a prayer cloth over their head. So that was a very important thing. I looked up uh, in the Bible where it talks about having women having their heads covered, and in First Corinthians chapter 11, 2 through 16, they do kind of an in-depth reason why. And they talk about wives mostly having their heads covered. And if they didn't, it was kind of a dishonor or a disgrace to themselves and to their husbands.
Oh, Lord.
Mhm.
Just one more thing to dishonor them, huh? Well, they didn't roll like that in Bethel. They just, they would wear those little doily things on their heads for the first Sunday, but that was only the ones that were in the I don't know.
It probably was the ones that were preparing and
Yeah,
serving the communion.
right. Yeah, certain. But if you were just a regular parishioner, you didn't you didn't have to put anything on your head.
Yeah. I still wear the doily, by the way. On the first Sunday, I serve communion, and so I still have that. And I wear it mostly as tradition, but out of respect also.
When I was coming up in my church, we had a large missionary group and a large mothers group. Well, all of the mothers and the missionaries dressed like that. They had on hats and things like that. But just like I said, times have changed so that it doesn't come down like that. And like the only time I cover my head now when I go to church is on the first Sunday when we take communion. See? And I kind of have to do that because I'm a mother of the church. So I cover my head. Just like I said, to me, covering my head, to me, is more respect for the service, not the church, not you or whatever, but to me, it's a respect for my Savior. A friend of mine, we were so close, just almost like sisters. She made these beautiful hats, and I made the dresses. So, and we sort of worked together. And so if she had a customer that wanted a hat, we wanted, well, do you want a dress to go with it? Or if I had a customer that wanted a dress, I'd say, do you want a hat to go with it? And so that's the way we did that. And she made beautiful hats until the day she passed away.
I remember going down to a store in Trenton that sold hats, specifically church lady hats. And we'd take the bus. And I mean, it was a big thing. We were going down there so that she could get a hat because it was going to be Women's Day or a specific day. And
And a specific color.
look, and so we went down there.
Well, if you look on your TV now, they had small brims. They didn't have big, wide brims. They had small brims, and they were no bigger than, I would say, the men's derbies. That type of brim. I do remember one time when I was coming up. I think I was in my teens. They came out with, if you know the 78 record, size of the record, somebody came out with a hat like that. And it was, people had always invented things. And when somebody came out with a hat like the brim like that, then all of a sudden everybody wanted a hat like that, you see. So that's how the big things started, you know. Now, like a lot of time, one time there wasn't any brims at all. They were like the French berets, and what they used to call the cloche that would just come down over your head. But as far as the what we used to call, now we call them church hats, because nobody really wants to put them on every Sunday. Because the hairstyles have changed. And that's another thing that was with the hats, because if the hairstyle changed, the hat style changed. Just like I told you, I was a seamstress. And if I wanted something, I made it. And I was looking at the New York Times advertisement, and I saw this fur stole and hat in there. And I said, I want a fur stole and I want a fur hat. So my mother at that particular time was working for this woman in New York or Westchester County, and she had an old mink coat. So she sent it to me, and I found a pattern for a hat and a stole, and I made the stole, and then I made the hat. Now the fur hat was made with what they call a cloche. It just fit down over your head. And so I made it, and I wore it to church, right here in Hopewell. And I got an order for 6 hats. Because they wanted, where did you get that? Where did you get that? I said, I made it. I saw it and I made it. Well, in those days, fur coats were not bad, and you could buy them. So, and a lot of people had fur coats. So what they did was, if you didn't want your coat anymore, they gave it to me, and I made the hat and the stole. But they were just plain closed. They didn't have a brim or anything. They were closed. But that was one of the things that happened to me in here in Hopewell. Now, when you say how to make the hat, well, it depended on you, what you wanted. If I was sewing for you, if you wanted a brim, I would have to go out and get the stiff part to make the brim. Or, if you wanted to decorate it, I would have to do that, Now, like a lot of times, just like that dress you have on now. Now, if you decided you wanted a hat with black with the red and the thing, the hat would be black, but then maybe you put a red and a red and white ribbon around it to trim it. You understand what I'm saying? If you wanted a big brim or a medium brim, you could put it, but you had to go out and buy the material to do that.
Well, I remember, wearing, I remember when I was 15. Well, see, back then, hats were much more fashionable. And as, part of your outfit than it is today. And I remember for Easter, you particularly would have a hat.
That's right.
And I remember this outfit and this hat that I picked out. And just being so, I couldn't wait. I just couldn't wait to wear this outfit with this hat. I remember that very well.
Yep.
We're talking 1965, and I just couldn't wait to showboat this outfit and this hat.
Hat. Boy.
Well, you don't see as many as you used to because, well, let's put it this way, COVID really messed up a lot of things. And a lot of, we had one minister, and his wife was very churchy, put it that way. She played the organ and everything. And she, once a year, we had a big hat day. And that particular Sunday, we all had to wear big hats. And wore my big hat, and then the next Sunday it went away because I didn't keep it, you know. But she had a fabulous collection of hats because she was the first lady, and she dressed like that, you know. And so that so as long as he was our minister, we had that big hat day once a year, and we did it. But when they left, my hats left.
I think that the women who wore them, they wore them with great um, panache. You know, they were styling those hats because they were important to be not only following in the tradition, but to be stylish at the same time. And I think that's why church hats and the whole creation and styling of church hats has evolved so much over the years because um, Black women take great pride in their appearance and um, how they present themselves, and I also think it's a matter of very little opportunity to be to be how can I say it, to show yourself and to present yourself in such a way when many of the women, their regular day-to-day lives did not involve you know look putting their best self or being very fashionable. Many of them were domestics, many of them were doing menial jobs, only the jobs that, so because opportunities were so limited, you were just doing like the quote unquote grunt work, working in a kitchen, whatever. So your life during the week was one day, but on Sunday you were able to be in control of how you wanted to look and how you wanted to present yourself to the world and to your church membership. That's the way I think that they might have felt. I'm just surmising.
Yeah, like you said, it evolved because I noticed now that boy, these women are styling and profiling. My cousin came to church last Sunday, and I'll tell you that hat was bad that she had on. I said, "Go on, girlfriend," but I mean, it's a statement. Like Beverly said, they didn't get dressed up a lot of them during the week, and so on Sunday, that was a statement piece. But like I said, it's kind of evolved from um, being an honor to just
A fashion statement.
yeah, yep. It is. It's a statement.